The King and Queen's former butler reveals all, including the King's rather good at bants and pranks, apparently.
Behind my bedroom door was a mannequin, a 6-foot mannequin. I had to get him out the room, so I'm dragging him out the room, and then his trousers undo, his buckle comes, he's got down to his ankles, and it looks like I'm dragging a half-naked man out my room.
What's the great British TV classic William claims his kids enjoy?
Difficult to know whether they'd appreciate the humour of a sort of 1970s, 80s sitcom.
I think it's that little sort of peek at kind of what their family life is like.
And we've got another WhatsApp leak. Find out what happened next and why.
Well, I did offer myself up for the lambing season at Dumfries House.
Yeah. Just for our audience, it was a longer clip. We can't show it all. Hello and welcome to Talking Royals. I'm Charlene White, and as I am every single week, I'm joined by Chris and Lizzie in the studio.
I'm lucky.
Oh no,
Every week.
We are very lucky to have you, but we're even luckier to have our guest today.
Yes.
And that is Grant Harrold, also known as the Royal Butler. And tell all of our viewers, why are you known as the Royal Butler?
Because I was a former butler to King Charles and Queen Camilla when they were the Duke, the Prince of Wales and the Duchess of Cornwall.
So that's 2004 until 2011. That's
2011, yeah.
Just one question to you before I catch up with these two. Can, anybody be a butler? Like, just a normal, regular person, or do you have to be super posh and have gone to Eton or something like that?
Not at all. I mean, when I was a kid, I had this fascination with the royal family. I thought it would be amazing to meet Queen Elizabeth. I actually wanted to join the royal family in some shape or form, join them.
Wow.
I wanted to be with the
Did you
royal
have
family.
a plan for
Yeah, I was. I think my father thought I was going to marry one of the corgis. That was that might have been a possibility. But I saw a documentary back in '92 about the Queen, which followed the Queen around the family, and you saw the Queen dancing, and I remember thinking I'd love to dance with the Queen, and that was an ambition that I got to fulfil.
So what did
Did you? You actually danced with the Queen?
Years later,
Really?
many years later. Yeah, when I joined the royal household, so probably about 12 years after this idea, I actually was at Balmoral Castle in the ballroom.
Doing a Kaylee in the ballroom.
Doing a Kaylee in the ballroom.
With the Queen?
Initially with the now Queen Camilla, and then as we were doing the dance, she said that I seemed quite nervous. And I told her why. I said, because this is my dream to be here in this room. And I said, to dance with the Queen. And she said, I don't think you'll dance with the Queen because there's 130 people here tonight. Don't worry about it. No sooner than she said that, she stopped dancing, the music stops. She kind of made a kind of sound and kind of looked behind me, and I turned round and the Queen was behind me, and then took us over to form this little group for this dance that we did.
Wow.
So it was pretty cool.
You can change who you're dancing with, so actually you get a good chance of dancing.
You do. So that's how I got to dance. That's how I got to do the little jig with her. And then part of the dance, as you move on to the next group, somebody's supposed to go under and somebody's supposed to go over. And Queen Camilla was trying to go under, which meant, because the Queen was the other side, was going to mean that the Queen was going to bow to the then Prince of Wales. And I remember, because I loved Scottish dance when I was a kid, and I kept the hands up so that couldn't happen, and Queen Camilla was so confused as to why we didn't go under, and I remember saying, well, otherwise the Queen would have bowed to the Prince of Wales, and she was like, oh, and I thought I probably just saved the monarchy at that moment. You know?
What would have happened otherwise?
I know.
The Royal Butler, the saviour of the monarchy. So one final question. When it came to you getting the job, was it an advert in a paper or something? Are butler jobs advertised?
It was it wasn't actually advertised as a Royal Butler job, though. It just said, it was in a well-known magazine that a lot of the aristocracy are known to put adverts in. And it just said that this family were looking for a butler. But my brother was already working for the family and had mentioned that this was a job for the then Prince of Wales. So I went along to the agency, put my name down, and it was ever so funny because they made out it was just a normal family, where I was pretty sure I knew what it was for. And eventually they told me, and then there was 6 months of interviews back and forward between Clarence and Highgrove, and then the final meeting was to be with himself. But there was one little problem, that they didn't want. I got this phone call from somebody at Clarence House to say that you can't meet with His Royal Highness because there isn't anyone else to go up against you. There has to be more than one butler. And I remember turning around to this person, I said, well, I'm terribly sorry. I said, I'm a very busy butler. I was working at a place called Woburn Abbey at this point. I said, I'm a very busy butler, and if he hasn't got time to see me, I'm going to have to decline the offer. And the voice was so confused. And she said, well, we wish you the best of luck, and put the phone down kind of thing. And about an hour later, the phone rang, and she said, His Royal Highness is wondering if you can come and see him next week. And I thought, I've just blackmailed the Prince of Wales. And I went and saw him, and luckily he liked me, and I thought he was brilliant. And I met Mrs. Packer-Bowles as well at the time.
Yeah.
And then he didn't offer me the job. He just said to me, do you really want to work for me? And I said it would be a dream. I didn't mention I stalked the family. I just said it would be a dream come true. And about a few days later, I got one of those official letters in.
That's amazing.
Offered me a job with the household.
I've got to say, Chris, I love a story from you, but Grant's stories are like...
I might just leave now.
You might need to up your game, Chris.
It did sound like you were looking for a new job, actually. Is this something you fancy doing?
Look, I think these days one just doesn't have one career, one has several.
Oh, okay.
So you never know.
Or are you actually looking for a butler for your household?
Well, yeah, if you're going to pay for it, sure. The stress you put me through every week, I could do with one, I tell you. Now, we've got so much coming up in the show today, including, which you're not particularly happy about. We've been back doing our WhatsApp leaks. So we have a WhatsApp group, Grant, and what Lizzie is very good at is sharing videos of Chris that he really doesn't want on the telly. Okay. And then Liz and I decide we can't keep this from our
It only works in one direction, this little WhatsApp leak, doesn't it?
Do you know what? Because we never embarrass ourselves.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
I'm going to make it. I'm going to turn the tables on this.
Yeah, Lizzie and I are way too clever for that. But you've been hanging out at Dumfries, haven't you? At Dumfries House in Scotland.
Yes.
And you've been getting to know the King's Foundation, haven't you?
Yeah, the King's Foundation is a really important part of who he is. And if you remember the book that he wrote many years ago called Harmony, this is where he puts all of that stuff into practice, which is, and a phrase he uses a lot at the moment is that we are part of nature as human beings, but not apart from nature. Okay. And we are going into the new year. We'll see that this Amazon Prime documentary, which is all about the King's Foundation and what he does and what he thinks. And we were there seeing it in action and seeing what they do.
So explain, Lizzie, what is Dumfries House?
So Dumfries is the headquarters of the King's Foundation, and it is a stately home. It's set in about 2,000 acres, and in 2007, the then Prince Charles, he saved it for the nation. It and its huge collection of Chippendale furniture were up for auction, and he stepped in at the 11th hour. The furniture was on its way sort of towards London to Christie's to be sold off, and he stepped in with the money to save it.
Have you got some Chippendale furniture in your house? I'm imagining it's the kind of thing
really?
You would have.
My living room is not big enough.
Quite. You don't have 1700s furniture?
No, it's not really my style. Everyone will find that shocking, obviously.
It's one of the largest collections of this Chippendale furniture, and one item they were showing us when we were there is worth what they estimate to be around 25 million just for one item alone. It's sort of a cabinet. It's an incredible collection of furniture, and so he saved it essentially for the nation, and now he does a lot of his work with the foundation out of Dumfries House.
Okay.
25 million. So you wouldn't get your cup of tea and put it on the furniture?
No, but you would with a doily.
Perhaps a coaster or two would be required,
you could do it like that. So did you stay in Dumfries? You stay in the house? Did you sleep in one of their beds?
No, we stayed in what's called the lodge, which actually anyone can stay in because it's like a bed and breakfast accommodation. So we were there for one night, so we could see the work that they were doing over the course of 2 days. And anyone can hire this bed and breakfast and go and stay in Dumfries House, and they do tours every day. And they get quite a few thousand people through every year.
Yeah, Grant, have you been up there?
No, but fun enough, when you were saying about the rescue mission, if you like, I was there when all that was going on. I remember the kind of, there was quite a lot of stress about it because obviously, as you said, it was the 11th hour. And I remember that about the furniture van literally being on the way to the auction house.
It was on the M6, yes.
Yeah,
they were £20 million short of raising the funds they needed.
I absolutely remember this whole situation. But see, when I was there, it was all still relatively new, and of course they had all the refurb and everything going on. So it was only really getting used after I'd gone. But he's turned into quite a big. I mean, I think the model, the kind of plan for it's now being used across many other properties now.
So to explain to us then the King's Foundation, because a lot of people obviously know the Prince's Trust, which became the King's Trust. And I think from a public point of view, people aren't always very sure of exactly what it is the King's Foundation does.
It was the Prince's Foundation and became the King's Foundation for obvious reasons. And it does a lot of things. It's all about, basically it's based around how do we live sustainably, how do we live as part of nature, and how do we get the new generation involved to understand actually our own existence depends on the natural world. The natural world sustains us. But it's not just about that. It's about how we do buildings, how we train craftsmen. One example is there's loads of churches around the country that need repair, and there aren't the tradesmen to do it because it's a skill that's died out. So they're training the next generation of traditional craftsmen.
But from where? Where are they getting these young people from? Is it from, I don't know, disadvantaged backgrounds? Is it from those who already have an interest in this sort of thing? I mean, on a grassroots level, are they really helping those young people who need the support?
So there's all sorts of different training courses for all different ages and levels. So it's whether it's schools in the local communities bringing school children along to try their hand at lots of different things and turn things that maybe they learn at school into practical skills that they might use in real life. It's introducing young people into a whole range of things that they might not have thought about as potential career paths, giving them little glimpses into things that they could do to find new skills.
Open their eyes.
Open their eyes. You know, they had
farming or catering or chefing, you know, lots of areas.
Okay.
And the absolute heart of it all, as Chris said, is this interconnection with nature, and everything that you see on the estate comes back to that philosophy. And so, you know, the produce you see in the that's used for the hospitality courses, it's all about there not being any waste. How can they keep everything as sustainable as possible?
Now, this is a slight link to the WhatsApp leak video, but I'm not going to show it now.
Yes.
I feel like it's more of...
You want to save it for the end?
like an and finally type thing.
Yeah.
It is prime and finally.
Well,
stuff.
how will I explain it? When
No,
you see
don't explain it. We're not doing it now. I said we're saving it till the end.
Okay.
But what I wanted to get out of you, Grant, is I know that you said that you hadn't been to Dumfries before, but you have been at the castle, Castle of May, with the now King and Queen, and that gave you a real insight into the prankster nature of the King, which I hadn't really heard of before.
Well, neither did I, because, you know, growing up kind of watching the royal family and seeing them on television or in documentaries, you've got this kind of idea of the seriousness of what they do. So to then go and see the fun side was extraordinary, because they sent me to Castle of May to
Which is in Scotland.
Yeah, and I thought it was a joke, because my parents are 45 minutes away from the castle. In fact, when I mentioned to my mum I'm coming up to Castle of May, she said, "Oh, do you want to drop some sugar and milk in on the way past?" You know, she thought it was hysterical. And then when I arrived there, I was given a tour. I shadowed the butler, which is kind of what I did when I went to any new residence, to learn about how the house or the castle was run. And then in the evening, when we were finished, you would all, I'm sure you know this, but we would all have a little drink at the end of the evening to kind of, you know, round up the day.
No, Chris and Lizzie will know nothing about having a little
never
drink.
partake.
You have a little. Okay, yeah. Well, they have a little tipple, and I was invited to go and join the team for this. And the housekeeper suddenly, it got to midnight, and the housekeeper said, "Right, time for everyone to go to bed." And it was so sudden, and everybody disappeared. And I remember kind of looking at the housekeeper, and I said to her, "Do you mind showing me to my room?" And she said, "No, you can do it, you know, you'll be fine on your own." She just got up the staircase, and she just remember that underneath your room is the prince's bedroom, so try not to make any noise. So I got up to the room, and when I opened the door, I looked under the bed, because I was convinced they were going to do something to me.
Okay.
And nothing under the bed, looked behind the curtain, because in all the horror movies, it's under the bed, it's behind the curtain. And there was a little turret in the corner of the room, which it had a door, and you could go in it, but you couldn't use it. And I looked in there in case somebody was hiding in there, and there was nobody there. And when I turned round, behind my bedroom door was a mannequin, a 6-foot mannequin in royal livery uniform from the time of the Queen Mother. And I just screamed at that kid out of Home Alone. I couldn't stop screaming. And when I stopped, all I could hear was laughter. And then I had to get him out the room. So I'm dragging him out the room, and then his trousers undo, his buckle comes, you know, he's got him down to his ankles, and it looks like I'm dragging a half-naked man out my room. And one of the chefs saw this and couldn't believe it and gave me a hand. Anyway, the following morning at breakfast, the now king said, how was everything last night? You know, how was your first night? And I said, oh, very good, son. He said, oh, you know, was everything fine? I said, yes, very good, son. He said, oh, good, good. So everything was fine, no problems. I said, well, you might have heard me scream, sir. He went, no, why? I said, because I said, I there was a mannequin in my room behind the door. And he said, oh, that's awful. He said, the Royal House are one of the most respected organisations. You wouldn't expect that, would you? And I said, no, sir. I said, I'm sorry for the screaming. He said, don't worry about it. I'm just so sorry. And as I went to go back through, I looked back at him and I said, I'm amazed you didn't know anything about it, son. He said, well, actually I did. I was involved in the planning. And that completely threw me. And that's when I thought, wow, you've got a really good sense of humour. And I witnessed that on many other occasions. And it made it fun because the days could be long days and could be tough, but there was always the banter.
A bit
and
of
fun.
light relief.
Yeah, there was.
I like to think about the king having a high level of bants.
Yes.
It makes you feel as if you could sit and have a pint or a glass of whiskey or what have you with him. And you'd probably have a pretty cool chat.
I think you could actually, and they always talk about, you know, when they go on tour and they always laugh about the thing that went wrong on tour. And actually, when everything is so rigid and regimented, it's actually quite good when something goes wrong because it gives them something to laugh about on the plane, on the. I was going to say bus, but they don't get buses in the car on the way home.
So you guys were in Dumfries, of course, because you were talking about the King's Foundation, which helps young people, and Kate and William have been out this week, also looking at projects which help young people, but are not the King's Foundation or the King's Trust.
Yes, William and Kate's doing separate events. Kate's was very much focused around her early years, where we've spoken about that a few times on this show. And this is the Anna Freud charity, of which she is patron, and a lot of the work that they do, which is supporting those parents of young children and also the mental health of young children as well. So this is very much, right in the middle of Kate's work in this area.
And what about William?
And interesting, sorry, just picking up on that, interestingly, her early years foundation this week announced that they are going to put in £100,000 of funding for research into basically how to combat technoference. We spoke a few weeks ago about that essay she wrote about how we are, all distracted by technology, and the foundation wants to look at research about how they can sort of tackle that and combat that. Some new research this week found that I think more than 60% of adults said that they were, distracted during family time. So the foundation really wants to drill down into that and look at ways
Price is only 60%,
to tackle it.
to be fair, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, I would have thought it'd be more like 95%.
Yeah.
And what was William doing?
So William was in North Wales for the day. He had 3 engagements, all looking at sort of young people in coastal communities. I think, they felt that as the summer months came to an end and we now hit the winter months and coastal communities are much quieter, he wanted to sort of go and look at different organisations that work with young people in those communities.
Now, during that time, Grant, he said, William said about Kate, behind every average man is an even better wife. And you were their butler at one of their first early dates, were you not?
So the thing about working for the now King was obviously got to look after both William and Harry, and they were very easy to look after. They weren't at all difficult. But one of the things that made me a bit sad was they didn't really do anything kind of formal, because they're obviously still quite young. They didn't want to do anything, early 20s, and they didn't want to do the formal thing. And as soon as I got to know Kate, or Catherine, it was, I kind of used to say to them, well, if you want to do a dinner, I would love, from a selfish point of view, I thought it'd be quite historically important to get to do that.
Do you have to cook it or just to serve it?
Oh, just serve it. Right. Oh no, I don't want to poison everybody. So it's safer if that's a disaster. Trust me, no, it's safer if I just serve it. And so I used to offer on many occasions, and then suddenly one day he turned around. It was near Valentine's. It was after they'd got obviously back together after the split breakup, and he said, "I'm thinking of doing a dinner. Would you like to do it?" And I just jumped at the chance. And there was a wonderful chef who sadly is no longer with us. She died a few years ago, and she was the chef on duty, and she was great fun to work with, and we did it together. And it was wonderful, and it was just the two of them at Highgrove.
What did they have?
From memory, I think it was chicken. It was nothing too...
And this was in Highgrove?
Highgrove,
right?
At Highgrove, at Highgrove in the garden. And it was lovely to be to be asked to do it and to be there and to come and witness it. And I was very proud. I remember saying to Mum and Dad, I felt this was one of the most proudest moments of a future king and queen.
But is there any element of feeling a little bit awkward? Like, no, from your perspective, just it's Valentine's Day, very romantic.
Yeah.
And they could be in a romantic moment. You're like, would you like some more wine?
No,
Did they stop talking when you come in the room?
No, they
Grant's
were very,
back, be quiet.
They carried on actually, but I tried to do it as quickly as I could to do the, so I wasn't in the way. But what I will say, that I was a bit disappointed. There was I think one of these kind of movies, docu-movies that was done about the early life, and there was a scene where there was a dinner. And I was very disappointed that I wasn't being played by Brad Pitt or somebody. They had somebody else kind of stand there. Obviously, was busy.
I'm sure they thought it was just as good.
Don't worry, we'll just make a phone call, and next time
amazing, that'd be great.
You will be done by Brad Pitt. Don't you worry about that. We're going stateside now because for our American cousins, it is Thanksgiving weekend, and Harry and Meghan have been posting up pictures about what they're up to, and they've been volunteering with the kids, haven't they, for Thanksgiving?
Yeah, and it's a really big holiday. Let's remember, in the US, we don't sort of note it at all in this country. It must be quite difficult when she was living here. But this is Harry and Meghan taking the kids out to do some volunteering.
And that's the back of Lilibet's hair, doesn't it?
Well, we've had this discussion on this show before about the fact they allow pictures of their children, but never of their faces.
Yeah.
Your view is that's their right, and I agree with that. Equally, I think, well, if you don't want your kids in any publicity, then just don't bring them or don't have a camera there.
No, but you know that you and I disagree on that.
We do disagree on this one,
Because
yes.
if you don't see their faces, you can walk past those children on the road in the States and you will not know it's them.
But they showed them at Disneyland and they put a big emoji over their faces.
Anyway, it's not about our disagreement, Chris.
No.
But yeah, as we said, it's Thanksgiving and Meghan's been under fire a little bit, or as ever, as she always is. But this time it's about how she prepped her turkey.
Yeah, I mean, do you prep turkey with jewellery?
No.
I mean, that's the question.
No.
You're telling me no.
No, I'm with
You take your
Shah on
rings
this
off,
one.
take everything off.
So, I mean, she sped this up quite a bit. But so for those who can't quite see, she is still wearing her rings and her bracelet. The bracelet is fine, I think. But it's the rings for me. I couldn't possibly. But then you revealed to me today, Chris, you always season your chicken with your rings.
I don't think I've really thought about it before. I mean, I don't often wear sort of bangles.
Raw chicken underneath your ring finger.
Well, this is it, yeah. But I'm sure the bangle she was wearing obviously got a bit of raw chicken on there as well.
But I
and
can always let that go. But oh no.
How do you do it?
With gloves.
Gloves.
Talking of gloves, that is very much linked to the WhatsApp leak video, which I'm not showing yet, just so everyone knows. It's not happening yet.
There's a glove involved.
I'm teasing again. But William was doing some other bits and pieces this week, wasn't he? He was doing the Tusk Awards.
Yeah, so William is a patron of the Tusk Trust. This is a charity that works with conservationists in Africa, and he attends the awards ceremony every year, gives a speech, and this is all connected to his work that he does with the environment, protecting...
And that's here, that was here.
It was here in the UK, yeah, protecting the environment. We've seen him do a lot recently, Earthshot, COP30, both in Brazil. But he also had that series earlier this year about the guardians of our planet and, people that work in quite dangerous situations, rangers and things. He is really celebrating those people, but also warning us all that we need to do more to protect the environment.
He was also talking to John Cleese, Chris. Let me play the clip and then we'll talk about the content afterwards.
Okay.
My children started watching 40 Towers. Literally love it. It's great. We've been having a lot of family laughs at home watching it. So glad. It was wonderful reminiscing and reliving those laughs all over again with the children watching it. It's brilliant.
Grant, the children literally love 40 Towers. Thoughts?
If he said his father, I totally could believe it. I don't know. I mean, I don't. Would children watch some? I don't know. Would children watch something? Oh, did they just
I find
sit
it
them?
difficult to know whether they'd appreciate the humour of a sort of 1970s, 80s sitcom.
I love a British classic, and my kids love watching British classics. I'm not sure I necessarily believe Fawlty Towers is on that.
But then again, as we've learned, none of the children have phones. So maybe when they get to the point of the evening, maybe they think, I know what we'll do tonight. Let's watch a rerun, a box set of Fawlty Towers. So
it is that little glimpse into their family life, though, which I think people like. And we know that, he's spoken recently about how they were going to watch The Celebrity Traitors as a family.
Yes.
He's spoken before about he is president of BAFTA, so he often watches a lot of the films before the awards. He's spoken about him and the Princess of Wales sitting down together to watch those films, and I think it's that little sort of peek at kind of what their family life is like.
Now, for our American audience, who have no idea what we're talking about. We're not going
is Fawlty Towers one of those things that you'll see on BritBox in America or something? I mean,
I suppose, but I was going to suggest that they sort of, use a search engine. Search for it, and they'll watch a clip, and they can make their own mind up.
Right.
But William was also talking to the Rolling Stones guitarist Ronnie Wood.
Right.
And although you can't really hear the audio in this, so I'm going to tell you the content of that conversation. Ronnie was saying to William, I'm going to be going on holiday soon. And William said, will you be wearing your Speedos?
I mean, it's a really...
What a question.
I mean, it looks like we had subtitles right now. And will you be wearing your Speedos, Ronnie? And did he ask the Prince back, are you going to be wearing yours when you go on holiday?
Oh, I'd love it if Ronnie asked him that back.
What kind of conversation was this? I mean,
Yeah.
Not like, where are you going on holiday? More like, what will you be wearing?
But Grant, it must just be like when they're meeting so many people on a regular basis, you've got to constantly come up with something interesting to say to every single person in the 60 seconds you have with them.
Yeah, because they're given obviously a background on who they're meeting and what they're doing, but I think at the same time they're being polite, so they're going to try to think of what they could have conversation-wise to say to them. And for some reason, that's obviously come into his mind to say that. But they almost have a kind of script, don't they? Because I've noticed that when they meet people, they always stick to similar safe subjects, as I call it. And the other thing that they always say is, how nice to see you, which I think the Queen started doing.
Yes.
Never pleased to meet you, or how do you do? It's always how nice to see you, or how nice to see you again. They all start the conversation off the same way.
That is true, because it gets rid of that awkwardness. If when you see someone and you think you're seeing them for the first time, you go, oh my gosh, it's so lovely to meet you. And they go, I actually saw you a month ago.
Yeah.
But if you say,
how nice to see
how
you.
nice to see you.
It's perfect. And now I've said it, everyone will notice it, because you see it all
And
the
have you
time.
come far is the other one.
And have you come far,
That's
yeah.
often
You
asked.
come to this centre often.
Yeah.
I'm taking...
But I wonder whether his briefing notes of Ronnie Wood had Ronnie Wood, guitarist, holiday, Speedos. Is that what it said?
Or I'd like to, in my head, I'd like to think maybe William was booking his hollybobs that morning. So in his head, he was in holiday mode and it just kind of came out.
Yeah.
Maybe. But in terms of how they deal with celebrities and often have awkward situations, because with some that you never really know what's going to happen next. And so that's what we're going to do for our archive section today, because I'm going to take you back to 1997. At a Prince's Trust Gala in Manchester, where the then Prince met up with the Spice Girls, and this happened.
But you know what? I think you're very sexy. Oh no! I won't. Can we have a picture with you as well?
Even more.
We can make it now again.
Oh, yes. Big bit of lipstick on the cheek there, wasn't there?
And a bit of a tap of the Prince's bum there.
And I think you're really sexy. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what? I miss those days.
Yes.
I was sort of looking at it and thinking, actually, if it was Prince William in that sort of situation with a cheeky girl band, which we don't really have anymore, I just don't think that situation could occur, because Prince Charles was seen as quite a fun guy. Am I right?
Yeah. But I mean, it's quite funny because, again, that kind of shows that kind of fun side to him. But it's extraordinary because we're kind of going around being told you can look but don't touch.
Yes.
That's the kind of rule, isn't it? But if that happened now with William, I don't think anyone would even think anything of it. But watching that back now, you're thinking, wow, did that actually happen?
Imagine, like that. If you think back, that would never have happened with the late Queen. But there are definitely much more,
Touchy-feely.
So I was thinking about sort of examples recently. There was the New Zealand women's rugby team. They asked the King if they could have a hug, and that they had a big group hug, didn't they? And then this week in North Wales, a member of the public hugged William. And I often look at those and think, that wouldn't have happened with the lady.
When we were in Guernsey, and that old lady sort of came up and planted a very similar big kiss on his cheek.
Did any of them pat his bottom, though?
No.
Did the King not also hug a war veteran recently as well?
Yeah.
He went up and gave the veteran the hug, which is amazing to see.
And it
really
sort of gets rid of that almost invisible barrier that used to exist.
But you do forget how the late Queen Elizabeth didn't do that. She would arrive at an event, and the very fact that she was there, or you could see her exit the car, was enough for people. She didn't really go along the crowd and get hugs and kisses.
So I know you do a lot of etiquette training, Grant. Do you have to do any kind of training with them when you're a butler, or does anyone give them training in terms of how to deal with those members of the public when they do come quite close?
You're given, I mean, if you go to the palace, they sometimes give you some guidance, but it's not, they don't give you a rule book and say, here's a crash course. It's just a bit of light guidance that you're given. And when I used to have anyone come to see the King, we would kind of show them into this room at the back of Highgrove, and we would kind of say, are you comfortable, have you met a royal before, and this kind of thing, and we would give them some pointers. But we used to always stress it's entirely up to them how they wish to, whether they take that advice or not.
Yeah.
And it was quite funny because I remember, it's extraordinary, when you watch people meeting them, and they're always quite confident and sure before they meet them, and then when they come face to face with them, it's funny how things go wrong. I've seen men curtsy, I've seen people just lose their words, I've seen businessmen suddenly, 1 minute they're all kind of powerful in a room, and the royal walks in and they suddenly become mice. It's extraordinary, this power that the royals have over when they walk into a room. You just said when the Queen walked into a room, same thing. How everybody just suddenly went to jelly.
It is incredible. Right, we're almost finished.
We could finish now if you want.
We could just finish now, but Chris.
No.
No, I've teased it quite a lot so far because it means that we can't cut it out.
Right.
So when you were...
That way you peppered it through the show.
Yeah. It'd be very difficult to edit the WhatsApp leak video out because I've mentioned it about 15 million times. Okay. So to set it up, you guys spent a night at Dumfries and they were showing you all the work of the King's Foundation. And a bit like, I guess, if you're on Blue Peter or something, there was a lot of show and tell.
Well,
and they got you involved in show and tell.
Let's explain the context. We were talking earlier. Let's get back to the beginning. We were talking about if you're a chef and you're not just learning with the food, you're actually learning where the food comes from and actually all the sort of husbandry of farming. Yeah. So we had to go at farming.
Yeah. But like make-believe farming.
Not a real sheep.
Yeah. So talk us through the footage, Chris.
So the footage you're about to see is me wearing a long orange glove, which had some lubrication on it, in order that I could find the lamb inside the sheep. This is a model, by the way, not a real thing. There we go. I'm quite pleased I managed to achieve it. Can I just point out there were two? The two had twins.
Yeah.
There was another one in there.
So you had to put your hand back in there and get out the other one.
I had to pull out both. And I was learning there about actually sometimes a perfect lamb has got its head and its feet like this. So it's got its 2 feet next to the head. I had to learn what do you do, for example, if one of those legs is tucked underneath and therefore makes it difficult to extract
for when you next decide to birth.
Well, I did offer myself up for the lambing season at Dumfries House next spring, and they've taken me up on the offer.
I do have to say, just for our audience, it was a longer clip. We can't show it all. It's slightly inappropriate. And also, we do want to keep you employed as royal editor, and you may not be if we showed the full video.
If everything else fails, I can go lambing now. So.
No, I don't think you can. But we appreciate you, Lizzie, for filming.
You are welcome, as always.
Yeah, as I hear it, you dropped your gloves, picked up your phone, and just started filming, so no one would ask you.
She did actually have a glove in her hand.
I did.
And was one of those who could have been picked.
Yeah, but
for the benefit of the show, I thought it was better to capture the moment.
Interesting things coming up next week?
Loads coming up next week, and I can tell you all about them. Yes, so next week we have an incoming state visit from the German president, and normally in a year you would have 2 incoming state visits, but we've actually got 3 this year, and that's because there was the addition of the Donald Trump visit. So we've got that. We have the Princess of Wales's annual carol concert at Westminster Abbey, starring Kate Winslet, Hannah Waddingham, among others, and we have a festive edition of With Love, Meghan. So a one-off
it's packed.
holiday special.
And it's the start of Christmas season, obviously,
It
so
is.
we may throw in a sparkle or two.
Yeah.
We'll see what we can do. And Grant, thank you so much for joining us. You've been talking loads about your life as a Royal Butler, and your book, The Royal Butler, is out now.
How did you come up with that title?
I know.
It took,
Did
it
you
took months,
brainstorm
it
that
took
for
months to
you?
come up with it. It was,
Yay.
it was ever so funny because when the publishers suddenly said, "Oh, we've come up with the perfect title," and they said The Royal Butler, I thought, well, that's what's taking a long time to work out.
Is this what I'm paying you for?
Yeah, brilliant. Is that what your 10% commission has got me? But look, Grant, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on.
Thank
And I
you.
know you've got
Fascinating.
So many other stories to share. So I'm sure that you'll be on again with us. But thank you for hanging out. Did you enjoy yourself?
Wonderful, great fun.
Yeah,
Great fun.
thank
you. Being here.
Thank you.
Well, look, you can hear us talking royals every week by subscribing wherever you get your podcasts. Do have a look through our back catalogue. As always, we've got you covered with so many royal topics. And we'll see you next week.